check.
You ready?
Dad,
Yeah?
some people say you're kind of a crackpot, but you make a lot of sense.
Well, thanks, I think.
Get your supply of the best long-term storage food available. Call 866-404-3663 or go to freezedryguide.com.
Now you can feel that squeaky clean sensation like none other with Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash. Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash is a unique natural formula not found in any other oral care products. With a gentle combination of zinc, folic acid, myrrh, and clove oil, Vitamer effectively whitens teeth, removes plaque, and freshens breath, and it does it naturally without any harmful chemicals. Visit us online at Vitamer.com. That's VITAMYR.com. Or call us today to place your order at 1-888-558-8482. That's 1-888-558-8482. Keep your teeth and gums healthy with Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash. Vitamer, nature's answer to healthy teeth and gums. And remember, it's all completely natural. Available at participating health food stores nationwide.
You're listening to The Micro Effect. We didn't get here by chance. Our existence is no mistake. We got here because America needs what we provide, and that's information. Information that can be used in your daily lives. While we're waiting for others to wake up and realize that they too need the information we provide, your support is needed to keep us going 24 hours a day. This is no easy task we've burdened ourselves with, and we have created a network of those who will continue to keep you up to date with the current events and actions that people should be aware of. No one here gets a paycheck. Everyone here contributes their all and more. All we need is your support to keep going. So make it count by making a contribution to our efforts, and our promise is we'll make our effort count. You can't stop America when everyone is pulling together. TheMicroEffect.com. Call 888-747-1968. Make your contribution today at P.O. Box 164, Kamei, Idaho 83536, or on the web at www.themicroeffect.com.
Check 2 3. Check 2 3. Can you hear me now? All right, everybody. Sorry about that. You know, it's crazy computer problems. Dr. Ott is no stranger to these things. We sit down, we get dialed in, everything's all set, the mic is working, and everything's all set, and I'm sitting here waiting for the time to come, and then the time comes, and the music starts, and we get into the show, and all of a sudden the mic doesn't work. And it's just one of those weird things. And scratch my head and go, And the people from the Micro Effects studio are like, "Why aren't you talking?" And I'm sitting here talking into the microphone, thinking everything's working. And apparently the music fades out, and all you hear is a big bunch of nothing. So, apologies, folks. I can't really explain these difficulties. It's not the first time this sort of thing has happened. I know my gear is functioning well. I have very, very professional, high-end audio recording gear here. I'm coming to you from the console in front of a very nice professional set of recording equipment. I'm sitting here in a recording studio. Albeit, yes, I'm coming to you from the back of a rusted out ice cream truck somewhere under a bridge in the beautiful city of San Francisco, California. Welcome, everybody. Thank you again for joining me. I am your guest host, Alex Studer, and this is the beginning of week 7 now for me, doing this 2 days a week for Dr. Truott, who graciously asked me to sit in as his responsibilities with his church and his family and his business have grown beyond his ability to really keep up with doing this show 5 days a week for 2 hours a day. It's certainly been a costly undertaking for him. He's not compensated. None of us are. I'm certainly not getting paid to do this, folks. I'm honored and I'm bewildered still by the invitation at all from Dr. Ott, who I still have yet to meet face to face. Here's this guy that I ran into while we were on the radio together, both as guests on somebody else's radio show, Dr. Deagle, over on another network. And we, this is back in 2009, and we remained in contact, and it's just kind of a weird friendship that has grown out of, I don't know how else to say it other than just mutually shared interests. My journey down the rabbit hole, which I consider to have begun really in 1988, was somewhat misdirected up until a certain point where I think, maybe in 2008 I began steering, well, no, that's not true. I have to back up, because as soon as there was a movie that came out of the town of Austin called Waking Life, and I don't know if anyone saw that. It was kind of a sleeper, but it was sort of animated, drawn on top of actually shot film, and then enhanced so as to be sort of enhanced reality animated. It was a cutting edge style, but it was done by the guy who produced the film Dazed and Confused, and I'm sure many of you may know that film, and that's a sort of a coming-of-age story set in the 70s of a bunch of high school kids. Well, Richard Linklater, who produced that movie, also, he started his film career producing a film called Slacker, which was a brilliant film simply for that. The whole movie was sort of a contiguous shot, as it were, of one person beginning the film, and then they would run into another person, and now the camera would follow that person until the person ran into another person, and it was sort of like a 6 Degrees of Separation style film, but it was very eloquently done. Richard Linklater began his career in filmmaking. He's from the city of Austin. And in those early days, he did this sort of animated film called Waking Life. And wouldn't you know, he cast this boisterous, loud, bullhorn-toting buffoon into his film. And yeah, you know, folks who are familiar with me and you know, my points of view on this guy are no stranger to good old AJ. And yeah, AJ sort of broke onto the scene in a way helped by this film made by Richard Linklater. And you know, back in the day, we didn't really have much of a truth movement. You know, there wasn't any of this going down the rabbit hole and having freedom of speech and being able to talk about this kind of stuff. The internet really was in its infancy. And so, you know, the idea of internet radio didn't really exist back then. You know, most of us who were on the internet in the early days had modems, like real telephone modems that, you know, took up your phone line and dialed out and, you know, if you listen to it, it sounded like just a bunch of noise. But that's how these things communicated to the central servers that were connected to each other by way of fiber optic T1, T3. And so, yeah, you know, back in the days of, like, you know, Matt Broderick's the war games, right? He's takes his phone off the receiver and puts it down into this thing, and it uses the phone. It hijacks the phone. So back in the day, and I'm speaking to you youngsters who don't know this stuff, who don't remember, like, VHS tape and vinyl records and you know, for those in professional recording, actual tape. You know, I'm dating myself here, but, you know, in a way, I'm sort of old school. And back in the day, we were all dialing into the net, you know, with modems. And this is like, I remember before there was even browsing. You know, it was just sort of IRC chat. You know, you could go and find little forums, and there were little folders you could get access to and post files, and, you know, billboard systems, a lot of them were called. But yeah, the advent of browsing and HTML language, you know, page description language in a standardized format, you know, in the very first browsers. But even back then, you know, with Netscape and oh gosh, I don't even remember some of the old browsers from back in the day. But as this whole thing started, there was not enough speed with which people could get to the internet. So the idea of internet radio just was before, it wasn't happening yet. Okay, so the only way anyone heard of any truther at all, you know, and back then there pretty much weren't any on the radio. But, you know, there were pirate broadcasters, or those who had secured some form of syndication into their AM/FM FCC regulated airwaves. And one of the first guys to do that was this guy AJ in Austin, Texas. You know, just, you know, as soon as he came on the scene and I became aware of him, and the reason I became aware of him, as again I mentioned, was because of the Richard Linklater film. He'd already been on the scene a little bit doing his little, I guess they had cable. And so, yeah, and so he was able to do like community access programming in his own region. And I think that's the story of pretty much how he started broadcasting, was through that kind of a venue. And I guess there may have been other guys or other people, pardon me, ladies, you're, you know, not discounted from being part of this crew at all. But back then, I guess the only way anyone had to get any sort of relatively uncensored topic out to the people was by way of community television. And I remember back in, in my neighborhood, growing up in San Francisco, they had local, I guess they call it local or community access television, and they had a specific channel dedicated to that. I don't know if they do it anymore. I don't have cable. They don't run cable to the back of this ice cream truck, so but people could pretty much sign up as they wanted, and as long as you provided a kind of a synopsis of what you were going to talk about, I guess. So, this is pre 9/11 and pre any of that, so nobody really heard of any jihad or Al Qaeda or any of that stuff, as I like to say, Al Qaeda. But I suppose as long as you weren't threatening to harm the president, which is pretty much a big no-no, then you're okay to do pretty much whatever you wanted on these radio shows. And AJ took it upon himself to focus, on his little shtick, as I call it. And he kind of grew from there. But as soon as I became aware of him through this film, and I know I'm taking a long time to make my point, folks. But I don't remember exactly what year that was. It had to have been the early 90s at some point. Certainly, yeah, that makes sense. Sort of early to mid 90s. I immediately kind of knew. I don't know. This is one of the little instinctive things that I have, is my gut feeling that just tells me when someone is full of it or not. I don't know how I can do this, but it's fairly easy for me to determine just pretty quickly, either looking at somebody on television or going to and I criticize actors, for their authenticity, being in character and stuff. But I have an ability beyond, I think, beyond others to really tell if someone is being sincere and truthful or not. Friends of mine like to say I'm a good BS detector. I've heard that said a couple times. I got a good nose. Whatever. I don't really know. So that sort of was the beginning of my steering clear of my first encounter with what I know to be disinfo. And I didn't really understand why anybody would, it's kind of hard enough to go over the fence and begin questioning the official story, and you go against the grain because you're setting yourself up for ridicule. So many people are aligned in their way of thinking and believe in what the television says about something or somebody, and all of a sudden you're not one of them. You don't think like they do, and you're a troublemaker. Causing trouble with that big mouth of yours, and causing confusion and ruckus, and why stir up the pot? Everything's fine. Why'd you have to go and open your mouth and question? Well, I think by now people are beginning to sort of realize, well, things are not fine, and that's kind of why we started questioning things back in the day. But back in the day, it was you were really out to lunch if you began questioning what was going on, and I encounter it daily, to this very day. Just this past weekend, in fact yesterday, I was talking with some people, and I've spoken to you folks a little bit, repeatedly, and I probably will continue to, as long as they keep doing it. This thing above our heads in the sky, this chemical aerosol spray program, which is commonly referred to as chemtrails. Well, Here, I don't know where you folks have experienced what you're seeing in your part of the world. I know a lot of the United States is under a giant cloud cover as these incredible new storm systems are coming in. It seems a little nutty. I'll get into that a little bit later, talking about weather and stuff. But over here in San Francisco, it's been kind of nice the last few days, except for these long white cotton candy streaks in the sky left by planes, often more than one of them, heading in opposite directions from each other, very close together in the sky. And these things just don't go away. Now, those who are familiar with my thinking on this know I'm being a bit rhetorical when I say the following. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Those are not water vapor. Okay, think about it for a minute. If those things were contrails, like those who would deny this sort of thing would have us believe, well, if it were really condensed water vapor from being supercooled from the wings of, right? A couple things. First of all, wouldn't they ultimately re-evaporate from the heat of the sun and no longer be visible? I mean, just from a chemistry physics standpoint, I mean, certainly the air can't be that cold up there with the sun on it and all, that when water should crystallize into ice after traveling over a wing and through some, evacuated airspace, a vacuum basically, which is the whole support system that keeps an airplane afloat by way of the design of the wing. And those who don't know the physics of that, go take a class and learn about aerodynamics. But wouldn't it be safe to say that, yeah, the water crystals would ultimately melt back into water droplets and then further back into the gaseous state of water vapor? Okay. But these don't. They just hang, and they continue to grow in size and spread and just get wider and wider and wispier, and they seem to just sort of descend from the sky. It appears quite clearly these things have weight to them. They're heavy. The second thing is one of the most obvious to me. To say that, well, of course it's not water vapor. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to observe an actual chemtrail plane in its flight while spraying. I certainly have, and I've pointed a lot of lenses at these things and zoomed way in. Most significant in this argument is the fact that the trails themselves do not come from the wings. They do not encompass the entire wingspan of either side of the airplane, which, if these were contrails, that would be the argument that, yes, the ice crystallized from the wing and the vacuum and the airspace and that sort of thing. And they would, more or less, if they would be the length of the wing coming out from the body of the plane. But no, anybody who's seen these things close up, these things are being spewed right out of the jets of the engines in very clear, aligned, focused points of origin directly behind the engines themselves. So what? They're combusting water in those engines? I don't think so, folks. That would be sort of detrimental to the process, wouldn't you think? No. The turbine of an airplane burns mostly kerosene as its jet fuel source. In doing so, it burns at its most optimum temperature, which is right around 800 degrees Celsius. And anybody who knows anything about chemistry knows that water does not survive this sort of a combustion experience. It gets sort of evaporated out of the equation like real quick, way before temperatures reach 800 degrees Celsius, okay? So the resultant byproduct from these combustion engines does not contain water, does not have water vapor in it, and therefore could not be leaving any trail of water crystals in an ice pattern, an ice form, behind them. So, you know, I'm being kind of fussy about this, but this is the argument that I get from people who just, you know, are you know, Joe and Louie and Tommy from the hardware store kind of guys. You know what I'm saying? And we're out standing on the sidewalk, and they're smoking their cigarettes and talking about the ladies walking across the street and that sort of thing. And, you know, and then, you know, two of us start looking up in the sky, and, you know, my one friend, he's commenting, he's like, that doesn't look right. And I kind of started laughing. I'm like, well, no, it really isn't. And, as you know, things that I have learned about it are pretty darn scary as far as what's really going on. And I just kind of point blank asked him, like, what do you think they are? And he started out pretty much saying, and I forget exactly the words he used, but in paraphrasing, he kind of said, well, I know what they aren't. And those aren't water vapor. And he knew enough to know this basic premise of the function, you know, the behavior of water in the atmosphere, in its droplet, its ice crystal, and its gaseous vapor state. So this guy knew enough to at least say, I know what it isn't. And so he you know, was curious, you know, and so we began sort of going down the rabbit hole a little bit, but these other guys that were standing over a couple feet away from us overheard, what we were saying, especially what I was saying, and one of these guys got really kind of testy and in my face. You know, like a bully kind of thing. And I'm just like, whoa, what are you doing here? Is this third grade? What's up? You know, but he really wanted to begin labeling me a nutcase and a wacko, and you know, and you know, he was going down the path of like just calling me straight up crazy, to the point where now I'm dangerous to other people, and I you know, he's saying things like I should be locked up and yada yada. This is kind of where we're going, folks, in a brainwashed state of being. You know, the powers that be, you know, whatever, the government, those pulling the strings, the owners of the mainstream media outlets, you know, they don't want people questioning what's going on behind the curtain. Okay? They don't want you to even ask the question. And they're full tilt bent on trying to make it now a crime if you do. Of course, this sort of agenda, this campaign, flies in the face of what this country was founded on: the freedom of speech. One of the tenets, one of the basic principles of the Constitution is the First Amendment, the freedom of speech. And you know, we're in a way kind of the last of a dying breed over here in what this remnant of what used to be America, folks. And it's readily being whittled away right under our noses. The obvious attempts to subjugate and circumvent the Second and Fourth and 10th Amendments, and these new attempts to really start making free speech a crime, and this hate speech. As soon as you associate anything you've said with any kind of ethnic group whatsoever, especially those calling themselves Jews, well, no, you're guilty of a hate crime, and now there's additional penalties and special circumstances, and oh goodness gracious. But as we see developing in this Sandy hoax case, this thing that's occurred, they want to say it's a crime to even ask questions about that. We'll be back in a few minutes, folks. Thanks again for joining. This is The Story Behind the Story. I'm your guest host, Alex Studer. We'll be back in a few minutes after these messages. Don't go away.
Do you have the food that will nourish your family through a disaster? Probably not. Round out your long-term food storage needs with the finest name in the business, the Freeze-Dry Guy. Freeze-dried foods preserve all of the freshness, color, flavor, and aroma that you want in your food, while giving you the peace of mind of knowing that nourishment is there when you need it. From main course entrees, breakfast foods, meats, vegetables, desserts, and snacks, the Freeze-Dry Guy carries a wide variety of meal options that will suit your dietary needs and can be stored for decades. Serving the U.S. military and the private sector for almost 40 years, find out why the Freeze-Dry Guy is the best you can buy. Give him a call at 530-265-8333. That's 530-265-8333. Or visit them online at www.freezedryguy.com. Tell them you heard about it on The Micro Effect. The Freeze-Dry Guy!
We interrupt this program for an urgent announcement. The power's gone and the lights are out. We now have an emergency situation. Time to light your emergency candles. Don't have any? Then it's time to order your supply of emergency grab-and-go candles from LisaKCandles.com. The emergency candles outperform even the most extreme conditions. They are soot and toxin-free and have a natural extended shelf life. The time is now, so don't delay. Have emergency candles from Lisa K Candles ready when you need them, so you remain in the light and out of the dark. Go to LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293. We now return you to your regular scheduled program already in progress.
Like to have normal blood pressure.
This is Ernesto from Illinois. I had my doctor's appointment yesterday and I got my labs in. My HDL is 119L and my LDL is 37L. My doctor asked what I was doing to lower it so much, so I told her about HB Extract.
Millions of people like Ernesto are suffering from high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, unbalanced cholesterol, irregular heartbeat, and clogged arteries. But now there's an effective, natural, 100% organic nutritional supplement for a healthy heart and circulation. Heart and Body Extract.
My blood pressure has not gone past 125/80 in almost a month.
Experience amazing benefits when your body gets what it needs with the assistance of Heart and Body Extract.
She did a double take when she looked at my ER labs. She couldn't believe it.
Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. That's hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
Thank you. Heart and Body Extract.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
In America, politicians are about to vote on the creation of a police state and a permanent state of war everywhere on earth, including the homeland, mein Führer. The U.S. Senate will be voting on a bill that will give this president and every future president the power to order the military to pick up and imprison, without charge or trial, civilians anywhere in the world, including America.
Illuminati, you never take control. Your new world order will lead to none at all.
Let's just go over that again because it may seem insane or unhinged at first. The American president wants the power to arrest and detain anyone, anywhere, indefinitely, without charge or trial, forever. Yes, it still sounds insane.
And welcome back, everybody. Thank you again for joining me today on Tuesday, February 26th, 2013. This is the second segment of today's The Story Behind the Story. And before I go any further, folks, I'd like to please ask you to contribute generously to the Micro Effect. Again, folks, the only reason I'm able to have any voice at all, or Dr. Truott, or any of the other fine broadcasters on this network, is because of your listener contributions. The Micro Effect is a family-run small business. They are not sponsored by any of the large media conglomerates. They don't have any unlimited source of funding, federal funding, or any of that. They're not subsidized in any way. So the only way they pay the bills, and the only way that they can continue bringing you all this fine programming, is through your generous donations. So please contribute generously to the Micro Effect. If you're listening to this broadcast at all, you probably already know the web address, but I'm going to let you know anyway. It's The Micro Effect, EFFECT.com, TheMicroEffect.com. And at the very least, if you folks are interested in these stories and the history of these shows, the archives are extensive. You can get past shows anytime, day or night. You can play them live off the website, or download the MP3s onto your own hard drive and play them at your convenience on your little iPods or your smartphones, whatever. Those archive access subscriptions are $20 a month, and it's quality programming, folks. You won't find this stuff anywhere else. Again, as I was saying earlier, the only way the people like those who are on this network back in the day could have a voice is through local community access cable. And those we're very restricted to geographic regions. For example, when good old AJ got his start, he was only broadcasting to a small audience in his local region. The Micro Effect broadcasts internationally, and the people with the micro stations and the ability to take the signal and rebroadcast it out over their FM airwaves are really jumping on a whole new hip way of rebroadcasting material. They're taking the internet feed and then they're broadcasting it out in their own region so that people with little AM radios around them can hear these shows. It's a brilliant concept. But it doesn't thrive, it doesn't exist unless everybody pitches in. And so I'm asking you please to do that and contribute, because this is the last bastion of what we have left in the First Amendment is what's going on right here, right now. This radio network and others like it. Well, there really aren't any others like it, but by now hopefully you get my point. I'm also going to do just a little shameless promotion. Like I said, Dr. Truott, he's taken a big hit to his business by sticking his neck out, spending a lot of time doing these radio shows. And I'd like to try and help fix that. If there's anything I can do, and the best thing I can right now is suggest that everybody who's interested in learning about better health through proper mineral supplements and other advanced technologies that you just won't find anywhere else, go and visit his business, which is at the website ME Minerals, Mother Earth Minerals. M as in Mary, E, minerals.com. Buy the book, Wellness Secrets. Start there. Learn about the history of this incredible guy, this researcher, and his devotion to better health, better nutrition, and detoxification. It's just brilliant, the work and the research that this guy has done, and he's made it all available to you through his business, Mother Earth Minerals. Finally, I'm going to do a little shameless self-promotion. Folks, I'm a recording musician. I'm a composer for film and television and a producer of record albums, and basically I'm looking for work too. So anybody who's out there making a movie right now and needs some help, you can go listen to 39 of my songs that are published on the interwebs. The address there is soundclick.com, soundclick.com/Alex McGowan Studer. And my name is Alex McGowan, McGowin, Studer, Studer. So soundclick.com/Alex McGowan Studer. You get to see a little music video that I made for my for the one song I wrote about Building 7, my 9/11 song about the controlled demolition of Building 7. And then in the upper left-hand corner there's a button for music, and you click that, and it'll take you to the list of, I believe, 39 songs that I have posted there, it represents work done in the recording studio over the last 15 or so years. Some of those songs are getting kind of old, but they're still good. But that's just about the only place you'll get to hear my music today. None of my stuff is really published. There's a couple movies out there in the world that have licensed use of some of my material, and I'm not going to mention what they are. You've probably never heard of them anyway. I guess one most notable would be the documentary that was made by the people who do the film, do the Craigslist website. They did a documentary called 24 Hours on Craigslist, and they picked up one or two of my songs for that. And then, of course, I am the author of a blog, which got started right around the same time as I met Dr. Truott through being guests on someone else's radio show. It's called labvirus.com. And I'm certainly not. My overhead isn't anything like the Micro Effects, and I probably don't need donations as badly as they do. But I'm not going to say no if anybody feels like making a contribution in my direction at all. Again, folks, I'm basically just an impoverished, out of work musician who has a lot of spare time on his hands right now, and I'm choosing to bring my points of view and my little perspective on the research that I've done over the many years with what time I do have available. And I don't know how, if all of a sudden I got hired to go away and tour with a rock band, that could change, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. And in fact, the last few people who did make me such an offer, I flat out refused them because of their overt satanic connections. I'm sorry, I can't really hang with the satanic crew anymore. There was a time a while back where I would have not even thought twice. I would have jumped and dropped everything I was doing. I would have packed up everything and just gone and made money and lived the high life and okay. Because back then I didn't really understand the seriousness of this whole Satanism thing. I thought it was just a fad. I thought it was a trend, a fashion statement, a way for people to sort of be cool. And over time, it became abundantly apparent to me that this was something way more than just that. It was, super serious to those who took it seriously. And it came down to my learning that, well, it doesn't really matter what I think. It's what they think that matters. And in a nutshell, that's sort of what drove me back to Jesus Christ, is figuring out that in a big way, Satan is real. There's a lot of things going on in the world today, folks, and I hastily scrambled back here to the studio to jump on the mic and be able to join you folks today. I wasn't really sure I was going to make it in time, and I'd called the studio ahead, and hopefully avoiding having to rerun a broadcast. So I don't really have a whole set agenda for what we can talk about today. I'll go ahead and say that the phone lines are definitely open, and during the rest of this broadcast, anyone who wants to can call in. There's two numbers. The first is a landline that the studio would prefer people use if they can afford. A lot of people have free long distance on their phones. The number is 208-935-0094. And for those who don't have any access to free long distance, there's a toll-free number. It's 888-747-1968. So again, those phone lines are open. I'm willing to take any calls, provided that you just keep it clean. Let's not have any profanity. We've already run into a few little snafus with that, and I prefer that that be the end of that. I don't want to have any more reasons for having anybody in the studio over at the Micro Effect upset with me for any reason. I'm very respectful of what they're trying to do here, and very aware that these things are being rebroadcast on FCC airwaves, which are strictly regulated with a zero tolerance policy. So hopefully anyone who calls in will be mindful of that. I was just talking before we went to break about how the mainstream media and just the world in general. I'll go ahead and say that. It's obviously being escalated here in the United States, especially with these people surrounding what we're being for. Sorry, I'm having a little brain fart over here. But the Sandy hoax issue, this what I'm calling it as a staged event, a complete hoax. There's a 3-hour documentary that was made, and I linked to it over at labvirus.com. You scroll, you go back in history, a couple posts, and you can get the links to that. It's extremely well done. I watched the whole thing the other night. And it really, again, I don't get cable, so I don't see a lot of this nonsense that fills the airwaves from this CIA news network, CNN, okay, and all the characters that, I called them the Fear Channel. I've got a lot of nicknames for these, and they sort of really came into their own over this 9/11 charade because they were one of the main purveyors of the disinfo, the non-story, the cover-up, as it were. Broadcasting that Building 7 had been destroyed and been demolished 20 minutes before it had actually fallen. With, the broadcast, the reporters sitting right there on the camera. Yes, we're very concerned about Building 7 having been destroyed. And in the background, you can see Building 7 behind this lady. It's still standing. So CNN... I call them CIA News Network, and watching this new film, this 3-hour documentary about Sandy hoax, the Sandy Hook documentary. Just go on YouTube and look, search for Sandy Hook documentary, and you'll find the one that's in 2 parts, a total of 3 hours long. But it just it makes me sick to my stomach when I see these people like Anderson Cooper and Nancy Grace, the helmet-headed Nancy Grace, just go immediately full tilt stupid into ridiculing and folks, I for those who've been following my broadcasts at all, I don't know if any have, but I read on the show last week, I think it was, the 25 rules of disinformation, and I have them linked over at my blog, labvirus.com. They're at the top of a page, which is called the PSYOP Wall of Shame. And it's a list of people that I add to every now and then as I find names on the news of people who are knowingly part of this crazy agenda. New World Order, whatever you want to call it. But these are people that are knowingly participating in shenanigans and nincompoopery that are ultimately bad for everybody. But they think that they can be the elite few that it won't affect, and I believe they're sorely mistaken. But anyway, at the top of this thing, I link this 25 rules of disinformation, and it just makes me really sick to my stomach as I watch this documentary with CNN footage in it of Anderson Cooper and Nancy Grace just lambasting these people who are questioning the official story about Sandy hoax, okay? They're just calling them conspiracy, tinfoil, nutcase, whack jobs, and, just ridiculous conspiracy theories and blah, 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 blah. I mean, where do these people get off, and is there a common thread, and, how ridiculous can it possibly be, editorializing, right? Isn't that supposed to be like a journalistic no-no? To be editorializing your reporting? I mean, don't we just want the facts, ma'am? Well, it's no longer journalism. It's infotainment. And it's not even infotainment. It's I like the word that Stephen Colbert came up with, and he didn't actually come up with it. He just sort of made it famous. Truthiness. And that's what we have today coming out of these MSM, mainstream media outlets, which is just filtered garbage. It's all coming from the same source. I just, again, sick to my stomach to watch these people lambaste the actual people questioning the truth, the true story, And most recently, it's just, True hit on it yesterday. I've been meaning to bring this up, but he did such a good job. I'll only just touch on it lightly. That the latest development is they're denying anyone the ability to see any of the death certificates associated with this apparent alleged massacre of all these children. Well, first of all, we haven't seen any actual photos of anybody dead or anybody even injured. All we've seen are these little media shots that we've been shown on television. Well, some of them aren't even from Sandy Hook Elementary. I've seen a couple different pieces of footage, and they were outlined in this documentary, that what we were shown as being part of Sandy Hook Elementary as it was unfolding were actually shot in completely other separate locations beforehand, and were spliced in to appear as if they were part of Sandy Hook Elementary as it was unfolding. All of which were exercises. They were drills, real life scenario, sort of like the civilian war games. You know how the military and the Navy, they go out and they do quote unquote war games, military exercises. Well, they're not just doing jumping jacks on the decks of their aircraft carriers when they say exercises. No, they're actually flying around, dropping, inert bombs and firing blanks, and they're practicing killing the enemy in real life scenarios that if you didn't know it was an exercise, it would look real as the real day, it looks as real it can get. And so this is the civilian version of what they've been practicing in these school shooting drills, and that's why they have Vision Box and crisisactors.org in Denver, Colorado. These crisis actors, they keep sort of popping up in various different locations and places and different names, and they're so convincing. And those who remember 9/11, there was the guy in the Harley shirt, and he was being interviewed, and he was like, yeah, man, it was weird. It just sort of, the plane hit, and then the building fell, and it was obvious from the plane, plane fuel just obviously did that, It turns out this guy in the Harley shirt was found to be a hired actor listed with the talent firm CAA, Creative Actors, down in LA. He's listed for hire actor, working around on sets down in TV land, down in Los Angeles. So today we have their modern day equivalents, and they've gotten so good, they've even organized, and now they have for hire crisis actors, and we have real emergency vehicles and all this stuff. And so this is what they've shown us in the Sandy Hook's quote-unquote exercise. It wasn't an exercise as far as we're concerned. They want us to believe it was real. On that note, we're going to take a break. Thanks for joining us again. We'll be back for the second hour of today's The Story Behind the Story after these short messages. Please don't go away.
what's better than Mountain House freeze-dried food? Buckets of Mountain House freeze-dried food. Now the freeze-dried guy introduces convenient, easy-to-store Mountain House survival buckets filled with our top-selling items. Each item is sealed in a Mylar-type pouch, and each pouch is neatly packed in clear buckets so you can easily see the contents inside. These Mountain House survival buckets come with well over a 25-year shelf life and are perfect for emergency preparedness, camping, backpacking, or at-home use. Go to freezedryguy.com, click on freeze-dried foods, and choose our 12-month, 6-month, 3-month, 1-month, or 7-day Mountain House survival bucket with 32 generous servings starting at just $69.95. And all orders to the lower 48 ship free. Call 866-404-3663 or go to freezedryguy.com. That's 866-404-3663 or go to freezedryguy.com. 100% veteran owned. The Freeze Dry Guy.
Results from satisfied customers of Heart and Body Extract continue to pour into our website, hbextract.com.
This is Al from New Jersey. One day I saw your ad for Heart and Body Extract, and it mentioned that it would help me with angina. So I decided to order. I figured I had nothing to lose.
Heart and Body Extract supplies your body with everything it needs to balance itself and maintain optimal heart and circulatory health with no negative side effects.
I took the formula 3 times a day as directed, and I kid you not, within 4 days my angina pain was completely gone.
Order HB Extract by calling 866-295-5305 or online at hbextract.com. That's 866-295-5305 or hbextract.com.
I could not believe it actually stopped the pain. Heart and Body Extract actually works. This is just an amazing product. Even the numbness in my hands is completely gone.
Heart and Body Extract for a long and healthy life.
Hello, brothers and sisters. We have witnessed the deaths of millions in fake wars. We have seen the erosion of rights and suppression of dissent and protest, and we have failed to stop any of it. This does not mean we are beaten. On the contrary, we are strong, and we can take the fight to our enemy because we are offensive, and we cannot be stopped. Join us as we wage war against our oppressors and tyrants by insulting them as often as we want. Yes, no matter what else you can or cannot do, you can always call your rulers odious squats. Go on, give it a shot, you'll feel better, and you'll have added to the growing ranks of the offensive. The owners of the earth, the fascist, selfish, greedy, lying, murdering, the super rich and their miserable lives of privilege and dominance, the thieving, murdering, decadent, puke-stains. You cannot stop us being offensive. Do you see? You cannot stop us being offensive. Do you see? We can strike at any time. Our hearts full of marginal assaults and ever more insults. Rancors and warmongers, behold, we are offensive. We do not take it back. We do not think we went too far.
And we're back. Thank you again for joining us. This is this 26th day of February 2013. I'm Alex Studer, your host for Tuesdays and Wednesdays now on The Story Behind the Story, which is ordinarily hosted by Dr. True Ott. And I'm sort of new to all this. I have my own little style of doing things. I'm very, very different, and it's a slightly different agenda when I'm on the air. It's probably a lot less organized. I'm certainly not a PhD by any measure of no letters after my name, folks. except ones that might not be so flattering. But I do have a point of view, and it's sort of my purpose to kind of share that and inspire you to show that really anybody can do this if they just want, if they feel passionately enough about what they believe and are willing to get off their duff and do a little homework, because you got to do some homework, folks. It doesn't get served to you on a silver platter. The truth, I mean. So many of us walk around and moan and complain and whine about, oh, we're never told the truth. We are never, we're always lied to. And yeah, well, dear, they took our jobs. Okay, well, that's fine and well, but it doesn't really do you any good if you don't know what the truth is. And to sit around and gripe and complain that, oh, the media's lying to us and we're never, if you're going to wait for the television to start telling you the truth, you might as well just pack it in, and just call it quits and find another game to play. Because that, I don't see that happening anytime soon. No. You got to get off your lazy behinds, folks, and use the library. And when I say the library, I'm now referring to the interwebs, the series of connecting tubes that Al Gore invented, the internet. Okay? Now, yeah, it started as an invention by DARPA. It certainly was originally intended to be a method with which government agencies could communicate and share information. DARPANet is what it was first known as. And it has grown to this page description, language sharing, just medium that everyone is connected to and sharing information with. Well, just remember, folks, that it had its origins with DARPA, and as such, they monitor and are beginning to regulate everything that happens on the internet. And to that, I'm just going to bring up a certain piece of news that just kind of flashed over the wires. That certain ISPs, and ISP is an acronym for Internet Service Provider. So, if you're logging in by way of Earthlink or Sprint or AT&T or Verizon or whoever your Comcast cable, whoever your provider is, the word of the day is now that these guys are now employing this sort of new spy software to determine who is using file sharing software to pirate music and movies and, all this file sharing stuff going on. They're going to be throttling back the access speed with which those customers that they determine are involved in such activities. Now, they're not going to let you know this. They're not going to show you, and they're not going to qualify how they make these arbitrary decisions. They've just made the announcement that, yes, they're going to start throttling back those that they suspect may be using the internet for nefarious purposes. And that, what about your average, what about your professional user, maybe a media producer, maybe a guy like me, who actually needs as much bandwidth as he can get a hold of, because I'm just moving big, huge files around. When I mix a record, all right, those are files that I mix down and I send over the internet to the client, and they, it could be halfway around the world. A lot of the time they are. Video editing, when I'm mixing down a video file, those files are even bigger. So who's to say I'm actually doing file sharing? Well, yeah, I am, but in a privatized way. I'm just moving my product around, showing deliverables to my clients. But, the ISP doesn't care. They're just going to see the high traffic, and they're going to throttle it back. So isn't that great? I pay money for something that I may not even, be guaranteed to have access to. And everyone else y'all are in the same boat with that one. It's just more of more. It's again this unrelenting assault on our freedoms and our privacy and our freedom of speech and our ability to connect and communicate. It's all being whittled away. The sanctity of the home, the family union. Okay, I don't care who you are. If you're gay, straight, lesbian, transgender, or half goat, man, bear, pig. I don't care where you are or what you can't. You. Unless you came out of a test tube like this guy that we're calling president, you came out of somebody's uterus. You were born in a natural way through a natural process that begets itself with a union of a man and a woman, okay? Unless they start genetically splicing uteruses into guys, I don't see how two gay guys are going to be able to get together and produce a child. Even then, I don't know if that's, that's just something I don't even want to. But this is how the agenda is moving, folks. And now that, gay marriage is, just like, True has his own way of saying this. I have my own, because I'm in San Francisco, okay? I'm in the gay capital of the world, practically, folks. I'm not gay. I have a joke about that. I'm like, no, I'm not gay. I'm just really, really happy. And, there's a lot to be said for that. A lot of the town being gay makes it a little nicer for the straight guys in dealing with meeting, ladies. I'm pretty single, folks, and I enjoy, having the attention of a beautiful looking woman when I can get it. It's not too often because I'm often sequestered in the studio and off at work and stuff. But I'm sort of meandering beyond the point. It's like, but now here is like the birthplace of all that. We've got all these rainbow crystal hugging hippie new age weirdos abolishing, abandoning anything Christian and hugging onto their false deities, their Krishna, Hindu, whatever their slant is. It's anything but what confines itself to procreation. You got this LGBT gay. I'm just wondering, basically, when is it going to be bestiality? Is House and Congress going to put forth a measure now where it's going to be okay to to marry your goat and have tax benefits for your goat? Will the goat be able to get a driver's license? Who knows, folks? That's kind of how I feel about it. And again, that's not to say that I disrespect or dislike gay people. It's unavoidable in this town. There's 2 degrees of separation between you and a gay person, no matter what you're doing in this town. And regardless of people's orientations, people are in general good people. I'm not saying anything derogatory directed at anyone personally. I'm just concerned that this agenda toward breaking up the family union is being accelerated, and none more so than right here in my hometown. And I'm beginning to see quite clearly where it's all coming from. And as it's very popular to have all this, left-wing, liberal, off the beaten path, cutting edge, we're doing it first here kind of atmosphere. You also have all of these round-domed synagogues all over town that are, by my observation, backing the whole thing. These temples of the synagogue of Satan. This has really got to be some sort of headquarters for those groups, because this is the birthplace of folks like Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she's not bloodline, but she certainly grew up literally 50 feet away. Her house was 50 feet away across the street from Feinstein's, which was just north of Temple Emmanuel, right here in Presidio Heights. You won't hear of these places very often, but it's like the creme de la creme of the synagogues up here. It's just nutty. I digress. Folks, there's so much I want to talk to you about, and it's becoming to be a good thing that Drew has offered me 2 days a week, so that I can unleash my vocal fury, because I'm finding now that it really does take me 4 hours to get through most of what I want to say in a given particular week. There's a couple things I could talk to you about. Let's see, we got about 45 minutes left. All right. Okay, I know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to talk vaccines for a minute. And then I'm going to talk about HAARP for a minute. And then I'm going to read you something about satanic cults, which is from a book that's part of a documentary series, which is sort of tying back into how I started the show here, is like the origins of what got me down the rabbit hole. But switching over now to my little talk about vaccines. Many of you know I'm the author of this blog, labvirus.com, and part of the reason why I even know Dr. Truott is some initial research that we were doing with Dr. Deagle and a few others into what we perceive to be an intentional release of a bioweapon, which is now being sold to us as just a flu. It's not a flu. It's a bioweapon coming out of the pathology labs of places like Plum Island and Fort Detrick and so forth. But also the other side of that sort of coin, which really is the vaccine program, which by my research and by the research of others has shown to me that it is incredibly toxic. It's a definitely intentional agenda to either or both either spread the disease, the viruses, or prevent anyone from being well. And as I read to you in a chapter from Bill Cooper's book a couple weeks ago, Anatomy of an Alliance, I outlined Bill Cooper's statements of one Aurelio Pucci of the Club of Rome and a guy named Dr. Wolf Smunis, who went around and spread the HIV/AIDS virus intentionally by way of a Hep B vaccine campaign that was advertised and targeted toward gay males in the late 70s and early 80s in New York, Chicago, LA, and a couple other places. As part of a program called MK Naomi, which is another CIA program. Well, there's some interesting information that is just being published regarding vaccines at the Liberty Beacon, and they just I just posted it, Lab Virus. You can go read the full article yourself. I'll just read the first paragraph of it. But the title of this, and this is something that we've been talking about a while, for years. I've heard Dr. True speak of this and many other radio broadcasters, and there's been a lot of research. Dr. Joyce Moynihan and Patricia Moynihan, I'm sorry, and some other of Truott's guests have pointed this out, that there seems to be a strong correlation between incidences of cancer and those who have had vaccines. And I certainly have seen this with relation to Gulf War syndrome, which I interpret to be no less than what they call Guillain-Barré ascending paralysis, which is associated with the use of squalene, a so-called adjuvant, which is added into the manufacture of vaccines so as to somehow enhance its potency. Potency, yeah, but potency for what? Certainly not for protecting you against any virus. No, it's potency of debilitating you intentionally. Yeah, there's a lot of studies and talk about, like, well, a lot of cancer patients seem to be those who got vaccines, and in some studies that we did, we sort of, did a blind study with the control group of being, a bunch of people who had not received vaccines, and the end result pretty much came out to be, well, those who didn't get vaccines, hardly any of them got cancer. And we've also heard the talk about cancer and that everybody has cancer cells within them, and high intake of vitamin B17 can prevent those from growing into malignant forms, and B17 being something that's found naturally in a grain called millet, which was demonized by the FDA back in the 50s and replaced with wheat. And that's something I want to talk about. Maybe I'll put off that. Well, I'll get to that later. I know, folks, it's hard to follow me. I'm scatterbrained. That's just sort of the usual me. I'm a little bit less prepared today than I had hoped to be, only because I'm working again. So, hooray, I'm actually out there earning some money again for the first time in a really long time. It feels good. But again, back to this article on vaccines that came out yesterday at the Liberty Beacon. The title is 60 Lab Studies Now Confirm Cancer Link to a Vaccine You Probably Had as a Child. And I'm just going to read the first paragraph. Here it goes. Dr. Maurice Hilleman made astounding revelations in an interview that was cut from the Health Century. The admission that Merck Drug Company vaccines had been injecting dangerous viruses into people worldwide. Bear in mind that Dr. Hilleman was the developer of Merck's vaccine program. He developed over 36 vaccines, more than any other scientist in history. He was a member of the U.S. National Academy of Science, the Institute of Medicine, the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and the American Philosophical Society. He received a special Lifetime Achievement Award from the World Health Organization. Hilleman was one of the early vaccine pioneers to warn about the possibility that simian viruses might contaminate vaccines. And if you guys want to go and read the rest of that article, I strongly recommend it. It's got some interesting reprints from some older articles, all linked together to sort of support the argument, again, that there is a very seemingly strong link between vaccines and cancer. There's a group, folks. I don't really speak of them very often, but they're the National Vaccine Information Center, NVIC, and they're headed up by a woman named Barbara Lowe Fisher, and they're pretty much one of the leading voices in the vaccine awareness movement. I'm not exactly calling it anti-vaccine. Basically, I don't want people to be pro or con anything other than being able to make your own choice and have the access to the information with which those people can make those informed decisions. Okay? I'm not telling you what to believe or how to think, and I don't even want to go there. I don't want to suggest anything other than get off your lazy behind and go do some homework, get access to the information. The unbelievable access exists now because of the internet. This is your library. The best library we ever had is the one staring you in front of your face, your computer screen. Okay? The one that you're probably using to listen to this very broadcast, because most of people listening to the show are listening to the live feed as it comes down the interwebs. Okay, well, that same web page you're staring at has a search thing up there, and you can type anything in there. And it's like an automated team of librarians going out, grabbing a bunch of books on the subject you want to know about, and bringing them and dumping them on your table. And then turning them all to the right pages for you. It's amazing. Back when I was a kid, we had to actually go to the library. There was no internet. There was no way to look stuff up and do searches. I mean, doing a search, no one ever heard of that before. You know, we'd have to go look it up. And most people were just lazy, and they just copy what they found in their Encyclopedia Britannica, you know, which is just this wall of books that all parents got their kids so that they could, you know, do term papers and stuff. And, you know, teachers would sit and read and just laugh because, you know, kid after kid would hand in these papers and they'd all be literally cut and pasted, almost word for word, stuff that was readily printed in these encyclopedias. So it's not like, you know, people actually did any research because it was too difficult back then. Today, you kids got it so good. But yeah, really, it's not as much work as one might think. And certainly those of us who grew up in those times, actually having to go to the library, might have that sort of mental block, thinking, oh, that's going to be effort that I have to take. It's really not, folks. Use the web. Just dial up a new web page and start searching for stuff you don't know about or would like to know more. You'd be amazed at how much comes up. And if you have any brain cells at all, it shouldn't be too hard after a little bit of reading to determine who's most likely telling the right story and who is just out of their mind trying to spin it away from anything that is anywhere near the truth. It shouldn't be rocket science. I don't think it is. So I would like to encourage those who think that doing any kind of homework is actually tough. It's not anymore. It's really easy, and it should be like fun. I don't know about you folks, but I like learning new stuff, and I like the fact that it's so easy and that I can instantly, you know, instant gratification, you know? I don't need to, like, concentrate on stuff and come back to it 3 days later. If I want to know something, I can learn it now. That's brilliant. Well, this is also one of the greatest fears that our government has, is that this access to all of this information is somehow going to be used against them and reveal secrets to the public that will become mainstream opinion or mainstream knowledge that will uncover some rather unsavory truths about these groups. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong at all. If it weren't for social media and YouTube and people talking about these things, we wouldn't be calling it Sandy Hoax today. We wouldn't have this documentary that we can share. We wouldn't have the video that Dr. Truott recorded, and he mislabeled it. He's so busy he doesn't even know the names of his own videos anymore, and I think that's great. But I crunched that for him, and I uploaded it to YouTube. It's called Money Mechanics. He called it Money Masters. That's not what it's called. Money Mechanics, and we uploaded that in 2011. And it's a very lengthy, couple-hour presentation talking about just this corrupt monetary system, this fiat currency. And anyone, listening and watching that video of Dr. Ott's lecture about money mechanics might also be interested in the same topic of the film, which was made in the film by Aaron Russo, called America, Freedom to Fascism. And it's the same subject matter that is the basis for the book They Own It All, Including You, by Means of Toxic Currency, which you can go read about at a website called newpeopleorder.com. So yeah, without this incredible library we have at our fingertips that many of us just take for granted, we're not going to be able to actually learn and share and vet the truth in a way that it needs to be done. So it's extremely important, folks, that we preserve our access to this internet. And you've got groups like ICANN, ICANN, and other regulatory groups who are really trying to ratchet down on internet freedoms. And I'm so happy that there's a group here in San Francisco called the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, because they really are spearheading the legal fight to preserve internet access and freedom of speech and universal access, so that we can continue to have this forum with which we can continue to question and learn and grow. It is my sincere belief that with the clamping down of these internet freedoms and the throttling back of people's access, this is a beginning of a slippery slope that we're going to be sliding into, where there's been talk of a kill switch that Slick Barry has. You folks don't want to lose your internet connection. I mean, what will happen if they shut the internet off? At the very least, you won't be able to hear to the micro effect anymore. Stay tuned for these messages, folks. We'll be back in a couple minutes for the final segment of today's Story Behind the Story. Don't go away.
We interrupt this program for an urgent announcement. The power's gone and the lights are out. We now have an emergency situation. Time to light your emergency candles. Don't have any? Then it's time to order your supply of emergency grab-and-go candles from LisaKCandles.com. The emergency candles outperform even the most extreme conditions. They are soot and toxin-free and have a natural extended shelf life. The time is now, so don't delay. Have emergency candles from Lisa K Candles ready when you need them, so you remain in the light and out of the dark. Go to LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293. We now return you to your regular scheduled program already in progress.
Regardless of the dollar price involved, 1 ounce of gold would purchase a good quality man's suit at the conclusion of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the presidency of Franklin Roosevelt, and today. You may not be in the market for a new suit, but you don't know what the future may bring. And gold is the one financial constant the world has ever known. It can always provide you with your basic needs. Whether you're looking for junk silver, old silver dollar rolls, gold bullion, or fractional tradable gold pieces, Kettle Moraine is your full-service representative with over 50 years of knowledge and personal experience. Visit FlyingEagleGold.com or call us at 623-327-1778 today for competitive prices on all your gold or silver needs. If you're looking for real financial insurance, call Kettle Moraine today at 623-327-1778. That's Kettle Moraine, 623-327-1778.
Johnson!
Help me, sir!
Stand down!
Oh, thank you, sir. I think you saved my life.
Evidence, Johnson. Even raccoons respect the authority of a man with good nutrition. That's me. Now, what's going on here?
Well, he started it, sir. I was trying to clean this fish, and he tried to take it from me.
Yeah, well, you must have looked a little wimpy.
Sir, I'm hungry.
Johnson, if you'd have brought your own supply of freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy, like I told you, you wouldn't have to be out here picking on the cute little animals.
Oh, I'd give anything for a big chunk of protein right now.
Johnson, don't salivate. It's unbecoming a Marine.
I'm sorry, sir. I should have called the freeze-dry guy.
Bugs you, don't it, Johnson? You're suffering your MREs, and I'm enjoying chicken a la king and lasagna and bacon and eggs for breakfast.
Sir, shut up.
Johnson?
Sorry, sir.
Get your own supply of the best long-term storage food available. Call 866-404-3663 or go to freezedryguy.com.
right, and we're back, folks, for the final segment of today's The Story Behind the Story. Thank you again, everybody, for all your kind comments. True said some really kind things on the show the other day, and I just want to thank him and thank you, the listeners, and especially the McNeil family. Joe and Kelly and Abby and everybody who's worked to help make this program possible. It's just been a great experience for me, and I understand that there have been some kind words said. True has forwarded me a few emails, and I'm really I'm ingratiated. I'm humbled by this experience. And I'm really thankful that I'm part of what I consider to be the coolest thing on radio. Period. And the Micro Effect is a big part of making all that happen. And I'm like a kid in a candy store. I don't know how else to express it. It's just the coolest thing ever. So again, folks, thank you. I'm really having a blast with this. So as I just mentioned, a little more, one more comment on vaccines, and I'm going to post this. I just scrambled back in from my work, and I threw off my binder and my book bag, and just literally plugged in, and I had about 10 minutes to do sound check and make sure everything was happening, and still a little snafu right when we started. I don't know. But didn't really have much of an opportunity to really sit down and present what I was, or prepare what I was going to do today, because I was booked all day yesterday too. But I in the 30 minutes that I had before coming on the air, I scribbled down a bunch of things, and I haven't even gotten to about like a fifth of the things that I wrote down. So that's a good thing for me. We'll have lots to talk about in tomorrow's show, and we'll keep the conversation going from there. But back to the topic of vaccines, and I'm going to post this list on my blog at labvirus.com, because I want you folks to all please go and look at this and take a look at the links that are relative to your own region, because there's a list that I was just sent by NVIC, the National Vaccine Information Center, about local legislation that's being voted upon in your area that will further restrict your right to freedom with regard to refusing vaccines and or being informed about them, and especially your children. This is extremely important. The rights of kids to refuse vaccines are being whittled away. I've heard stories of kids being whisked away down the hall by their school, force vaccinated on the spot, and parents not even being informed or being given an opportunity to opt out of this very, very toxic agenda, as I'm aware of it to be. So, folks, get involved, and for more information on this, there's a group called NVICadvocacy.org, and that is spelled N as in Nancy, V as in Victor, I, C, A, D as in David, V as in Victor, O, C, Y. NVICadvocacy.org. And here you can learn about what you can do in your own region. You can hook up with some of the regional directors. This is a very organized group, and there's regional directors in just about every state, every major region there is. There's one here in Northern California, and I'm in touch with her, and I'm doing what I can to spread the local messages. We just had this AB 2109 issue with local California legislature, and it was an uphill battle, and of course it didn't end well, and this further restricts kids and parents' ability to opt out of these vaccines. And meanwhile, these propaganda campaigns are being shoved down our throats, telling us we have no choice we have to accept these vaccines, when that's just not true. Okay, there are ways around this, and the ways you can learn start with NVIC, NVICadvocacy.org, and the current list of legislation that's up for decision currently. I know I said that twice, but I'm going to post it at labvirus.com, and especially in the states of Texas and Arizona. This is a scary looking list of legislation. Connecticut, Florida, Kansas, Missouri, Montana, Illinois, Idaho, Georgia, New York, Oklahoma, Oregon, everywhere pretty much, okay? Virginia, Vermont, Wyoming. There's lots of legislations that are on the table right now to being voted on by your state legislature that you can have a voice in opposing. So I strongly urge for those interested to get involved, learn about what's happening, and try to assist. You know, who knows? You might be able to stop some of this dead in its tracks. So the last 20 minutes that we have together, folks, today, I'm going to talk about harp. And no, I'm not talking about the musical instrument. I'm talking about the acronym HAARP, which stands for High Frequency High Frequency Active Aural, as in AURAL, Resonance Project. Okay? Now, for those who want to see the HAARP home page, that address is www.haarp.alaska.edu. World Wide Web, www.harp.alaska.edu. Okay? That's the HAARP homepage. Now, there's real-time data that's being published on this website, the magnetometer data. Kind of fun to watch relative to events that can be associated with this transmitter. And its connected array of transmitters. This is not the only one. There's a couple spanning the country. This is but one cluster of these types of transmitters. As I've said before, there are others like it. There's one in Australia, there's one in China, there's one in Russia, at least one. So pretty much this is like the new Star Wars weapon that, you know, thanks to Tesla's work and certain patents that were made, and you know, anybody who does some industrious picking at the surface will be able to uncover these patents and learn about what was just released by the Navy press release yesterday. What they can do with these things. These are scalar weapons that involve shooting gigawatts, bazigawatts, you know, zigabigawatts, whatever you want to call them, just insane amounts of energy into the ionosphere, and then bouncing around into a focused location and directing it in any way they want, pretty much. So there's a new article that's out. This was published yesterday from the NRL, you know, from the Navy Mill site, Navy Research Labs. And the title of this article is NRL Scientists Produce Densest Artificial Ionospheric Plasma Clouds Using HAARP. Now, after I'm done reading this, folks, you know, I'm going to sit down and update my my blog, and this article will be linked there, so you can do some further research. I'm not going to give you the whole URL for it because it's really long, but this article was posted just yesterday. U.S. Naval Research Laboratory research physicists and engineers from the Plasma Physics Division working at the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, HAARP, transmitter facility in Gakona, Alaska, successfully produced a sustained high-density plasma cloud in Earth's upper atmosphere. Quote, previous artificial plasma density clouds have lifetimes of only 10 minutes or less, said Paul Bernhardt, PhD, NRL Space Use and Plasma Section. This higher density plasma ball was sustained over 1 hour by the HARP transmissions and was extinguished only after termination of the HARP radio beam. These glow discharges in the upper atmosphere were generated as part of the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, sponsored Basic Research on Ionospheric Characteristics and Effects, BRIOCHE, campaign to explore ionospheric phenomena and its impact on communications and space weather. And over to the right, you see this sort of like time-lapse photo of this ball, and there's 8 shots of it over the course of an hour. And it just sort of, appears out of nothing, and it just goes super hot, and it's just glowing, and then, toward the end, it just sort of fades back out again. And the caption to this photo sequence is, it says, sequences of images of the glow plasma discharge produced with transmissions at the third electron gyro harmonic using the HARP HF transmitter in Gakona, Alaska. The third harmonic artificial glow plasma clouds were obtained with HARP using transmissions at 4.34 megahertz. The resonant frequency yielded green line, which somehow represents 557.7 nanometer emission. I'm guessing that's the length of the wavelength. With HF on November 12th, 2012, between the times of 2:26 and... Alright, GMT. Okay. Getting back to the article now. Using the 3.6 megawatt high frequency HF HARP transmitter, the plasma clouds or balls of plasma are being studied for use as artificial mirrors at altitudes 50 kilometers below the natural ionosphere and are to be used for reflection of high frequency radar and communications signals. Past attempts to produce electron density enhancements have yielded densities of 4 times 10 to the 5th electrons per cubic centimeter using high-frequency radio transmissions near the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th harmonics of the electron cyclotron frequency. This frequency near 1.44 megahertz is the rate that electrons gyrate around the Earth's magnetic field. The NRL group succeeded in producing artificial plasma clouds with densities exceeding 9 times 10 to the 5th electrons per cubic centimeter using HARP transmission at the 6th harmonic of the electron cyclotron frequency. Optical images of the artificial plasma balls show that they are turbulent with dynamically changing density structures. Electrostatic waves generated by the HARP radio transmissions are thought to be responsible for accelerating electrons to high enough energy to produce the glow discharge in the neutral atmosphere, approaching altitudes of nearly 170 kilometers. The artificial plasma clouds are detected with high-frequency radio soundings and backscatter, ultra-high-frequency radar backscatter, UHF, and optical imaging systems. Ground measurements of stimulated electromagnetic emissions provide evidence of the strength and frequency for the electrostatic waves that accelerated ambient electrons to ionizing velocities. The NRL team is working with collaborators at SRI International, University of Alaska Fairbanks, University of Florida, and BAE Systems on this project to synthesize the observations with parametric interaction theory to develop a comprehensive theory of the plasma cloud generation. The next HARP campaign, scheduled for early 2013, will include experiments to develop denser, more stable ionization clouds. So this, folks, now that's the end of that article, provides a little bit of a backdrop and a way to segue into these crazy storm systems that have been hitting us and are hitting us right now. The Midwest, South, Eastern Seaboard, this Nemo and this Superstorm Sandy. Okay, there's a guy out there who calls himself Dutch Sense. Dutch, like, Holland, Dutch, D-U-T-C-H, Sense, S-I-N-S-E, Dutch Sense. And you can search for his little blog, and he's got this regular posting of new material on YouTube. He's also got a Facebook presence. He's pretty tapped in to this little HARP agenda. I wouldn't call it little. It's just term of endearment, really, but it's a gigantic agenda, and it's one that gets its origins from Wilhelm Reich, again, more Tesla with his energy experiments, but these experiments with this thing called orgone, which is just sort of another state of energy, and I liken it the easiest way for me to make an analog of this would be to describe George Lucas's The Force in his Star Wars. There's good energy and there's dead energy as far as orgone energy is concerned. And back in the 40s, Wilhelm Reich experimented with orgone energy as he'd come to understand it. And he would send up in these hot air balloons these little weird boxes that were made of sort of layers of organic and inorganic material. And they were known as doorbusters. And door was sort of the acronym for dead orgone energy. And they were also known as cloudbusters. And his little experiment was just say, hey, okay, I wonder if I can make something that plays off of the frequencies and the energies of this orgone energy and makes it dissipate. And so he'd find heavy cloud systems, and he'd send up these funky little boxes in weather balloons into the cloud systems, and lo and behold, they would sort of break up the storm systems, and they would land in random places all over them, and so there was like a collector's scramble to find these things, and anybody who's got an original doorbuster has a real collectible on their hands. But this began sort of the advent of what they now refer to as weaponized weather. And it is by way of these HARP systems, folks, that these weather systems, which we are currently experiencing and will most likely continue to experience, I at this point, I would say 90% of them are being influenced on purpose. Furthermore, now that we have seen proof positive the focused high-density energy masses that can be created by these directed energy systems, it is not far off to reason that they could easily have created earthquakes and other events that could have been cloaked behind a veil of plausible deniability and sold to the public as just another natural occurrence. Well, it would appear that there's sort of a war going on with these Death Star-like weapons, because we're not the only people who have them. Like I said, Australia, China, Russia, they got them too. I submit that there's an invisible war of weather going on. These people are zapping us, and we're zapping them, and it's gone beyond weather. I don't know if you folks are aware of the rising number of stories of inexplicable explosions that have been happening. We had a couple articles in the news, and this guy's entire house blew up and took the house next to him, and then the next one, and this is out in the suburban community, and the first thing people thought is, oh, the guy's got a meth lab in there, but that turned out not to be the case, and it turned out that not even no traces of explosives were found. What's that about? And now there's the story of some guy that just sort of spontaneously combusted. I mean, you're kidding me, right? That's exactly what they're saying. I'm not joking. There's some guy who just like a week ago, or I don't know how long, a couple days ago, poof. And okay, this is the explanation that they're giving us. Oh, he's spontaneous. Oh, wait, that's a normal thing? I thought that was just something that they laughingly put into a movie. If I'm not, far off, I mean, anyone who's seen This Is Spinal Tap, they had the running joke about, how all the drummers kind of, all the rock drummers, die before the band gets famous. Or once the band gets famous, the rock drummer and so they'd have the drummer like spontaneously combust in the film, and it was just like, oh yeah, no, he spontaneously combusted. But get the other drummer now. But these things of fiction are now being sold to us as, well, this is the plausible explanation. Yeah, you just spontaneously combusted. Well, I don't know about you folks, but I don't remember that actually being a plausible explanation for anything. That doesn't work for me. And this guy, whose name I just mentioned to you, he goes by the name of Dutch Sense, has done a fantastic job and continues to chronicle. He's chronicling these random weird explosions, but he's also supplementing these observations with the monitoring of radar, infrared, and other systems that are tracking these high energy weather weapon systems like HARP, including the one off the East Coast at a place called Arecibo. And for those who are interested in digging a little deeper, I suggest, like I said, you can find Dutch Sense on Facebook, friend him on Facebook, and get his regular updates that way. Also, he's got a blog. I don't know the address exactly, but it'll pop right up into your search field. If again, using the internet as a library tool, this is the best bang for the buck you're going to get as far as educating yourself and finding out what's really going on out there in the world. I'm trying to do my version of making it easy by collecting and condensing the things that I deem important over at my, stupid little site, labvirus.com. But there are people who run circles around me in this regard. In other ways, Truot is definitely of a higher caliber and certainly different experience level than I'll ever have. Ken Adachi over at his educate-yourself.org. Just an insane good collection of valuable information over there. So folks, you don't really have to get off your butt, literally. You can sit right where you're at and continue doing all the things that you're doing, but just plug into that search field, open a new tab, open a new window, and dig a little bit. It's really not as hard as you think. And I think if people begin to realize that it's not actually that hard, they might actually begin to do it more. And this is what I'm hoping, is to spread like the good virus. The question of, what if I've been lied to? And what if everything I've been taught to believe is wrong? Well, it's really easy these days to find out what if? Oh, you just plug it in into the search field and go surfing. With these just last closing few seconds, I'll update you folks that I've keyed right into the wheat being poison. I'm no longer eating wheat products, and I'm taking 100 milligrams of borax a day, and I'll have more to tell you about that in tomorrow's show. Thanks again for joining me, everybody. I really appreciate you all listening. I'll be back again tomorrow with the story behind the story. Until then, folks, have a good one. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
We are